You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side.
God bless America. Welcome to The Ranch, everybody, the podcast where we explore the people and happenings of Dry Creek Ranch, Eagle, and the greater Boise community. DCR Charter School fans, do not forget tomorrow, September 14th, is when the county will decide if Boise Home Hunter will be allowed to deed the land in the east side of the property to a charter school instead of West Ada. If you are a big fan of this, please do go out and show your support for it. And if you're not a fan of it, go and share your concerns as well. It's important for everybody to be heard, but regardless, we need to show some manner of opinion on this at the meeting tomorrow with the county. The rodeo might be coming to town. Might be. I did receive a lot of communication from a lot of residents asking if I knew anything about it. I have heard whisperings and some secondhand confirmations. I have reached out to the Eagle Rodeo to find out if they would be interested in sending somebody on to chat about it. And of course, if Boise Home Hunter wanted to chat about it as well, I'd be happy to host them. But again, I don't know anything yet about the Eagle Rodeo coming to town. Some people have said absolutely they will be coming and holding the Eagle Rodeo in 2023 in the horse area in Dry Creek Ranch. That would be a big event. So regardless, if it is happening, it's important for us as residents to know about it. And if it's not happening, that's also important so people can just relax about it. Because again, there are a lot of people that are getting understandably very worked up over the idea of having a massive rodeo here, and I live near the horse corral, so look, I would like to know if there was some large event coming so we could plan ahead. My guest today is a man with almost as many ideas as I have. He's a business owner many times over. It seems like every time I talk to him, he has his finger in another little pie. He's a great friend of mine and somebody I could just talk to for hours about all kinds of different things. We actually had to cut it short because when we recorded this, it was the first day of school and I had to go pick up my kids, but we could have easily talked for another couple hours. I greatly enjoy his company. I greatly enjoy the conversation and the intriguing ideas he has. I know you're going to enjoy it too. So without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Andrews. I'll tell you what, I was actually really upset when I left California because, not for any social reasons at all, I was really upset that we lost good coffee. Because my wife and I were both huge Peet's Coffee fans, like ravenous Peet's fans. And I have now found the human being. And the people at Human Being love me, and I love them. I cannot help but smile when I pull up to that place. It is God, it's a shot of awesome.
I'm surprised that you thought leaving California you would get worse coffee. Like we are in the Pacific Northwest. It's,
yeah, like the home of Starbucks. The hell are you talking about?
No, Starbucks just capitalized on it already.
Name a fantastic coffee shop in the Pacific Northwest.
Every coffee shop but Starbucks.
Seattle's best?
Whatever. The small ones. It was always a coffee community. It was a coffee community.
Name one.
I don't know. Fucking
exactly.
Coffee shops.
Get the
Dutch Bros. That was good. But that's from NorCal, isn't it? Fuck. Oh.
All I'm saying is that I appreciate human beings.
That's in Portland.
Pete, yeah, there you go. Pete's Coffee has good coffee. I like it a lot. And my wife and I have been big, loyal Pete's fans since we were like 23. So for us, I mean, even if there's a coffee connoisseur out there that's saying it's trash, it was still good to us, which is all we really cared about.
Yeah. We're going to have to create a Dry Creek coffee roaster.
Dude, how badass would that be?
No, it's in the plans. It's happening.
Okay, so listen, you have all kinds of ideas for that commercial space. And like I've heard whiskey bar, pizza place, now a coffee place. I feel like there's enough juice in the community that we can work something out for that spot.
Yeah. I'm actually looking to present a kind of draft model of the commercial lot to see if we can community fundraise it and buy the lot, build it, become the landlords, design the whole thing. And this is something obviously we got to run through the Boise Hunter group, but they don't seem that interested in developing it themselves. And with the collective people in this neighborhood and ideas and skill sets, I think that we can pull it off. That's what started my idea to bring a group I had started down south in Southern California. It's called Moonlight Collective, and basically it's just a bunch of people, professionals, overachievers that want to make more out of the time they have and put their brains and skill sets and money to work. Understanding how most businesses grow, it's someone's got a cool idea, you reach out to your neighborhood, your buddies, your network, you build it, more or less in your garage. Doesn't have to actually figuratively be in the garage, even though we are. And
This is a tricked out studio. It just happens to be in a garage.
Sure, but like look at every great good business had that same similar local network they had. And you look at this community and a lot of transplants, a lot of people, a lot of energy. Probably things are settling down now, and they're going, okay, I'm settled in. I want to
Want to do
the
something.
Party's over. Let's get to work. And I've talked to so many people, and they're all different walks of life and different skill sets. Some people just with lots of extra money. Some people with great ideas. Some people with lots of extra time that have experience or retired. And when you have a network that encompassing, you can apply this approach where it's like a network productivity, and where you have a group of people with good ideas, good skill sets, and good money that want to create businesses. And if you can reduce the need to own 100% of it, then we can actually get a lot of things done. We'll get wealth through throughput. And so, anyways, that's what made me, when I had talked to Travis Hunter about the commercial space, it drummed up the idea. I'm like, and I was talking to some guy at a pool. I can't remember his name. I hope he's watching this. I have his number and everything. I should look it up. But he runs a development firm with his brothers, I think. And we were just chatting. I was like, man, what a great, we don't have to go hunt for anybody. We can do this in the community. Let's work together. Let's see what else we could do. And run the financial model, see what it takes to get a down payment, because that's all we have to do, right? Collect enough money to get a down payment, to get a loan with a good business plan, and we could become the owners of the commercial property. And so I have a good visual. I'm having it drafted. One of the reasons why I haven't launched this meeting, the first meeting, is because I want to have this 3D rendering of the vision, just a base code, like where to start, of that property in the corner. And before I, just talk about it, I'd rather just show everyone, like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Obviously, it doesn't need land there, but the idea. And then on the corner, to finish the first topic there, was instead of a gas station or something, like, just a drive-through coffee shop would be sick. We could brand our own.
I'm telling you right now, though, I really like human being. Like, is there any way that we could do, like, a dry human being or something?
It's a lot safer to get a larger organization in there anyways, long-term lease, the whole thing.
I was speaking with an athletic director of this high school back in San Ramon Valley High School is a really well-to-do and well-known high school in Danville, and their athletic director and I had done several podcasts and talked about issues that especially high school athletes are facing, which they're numerous, right? Aside from just trying to get into school, there are all kinds of weird social things going on. But we were chatting just the other day, on a phone call, and he was saying that he'd found it very interesting because he actually stepped away from the position I think at the end of 2021, and he moved out of the area. He's like, I can't do this anymore. Principled guy, nobody knew, but he was very conservative and just really disagreed with everything that was coming down the pipe for athletics. And in speaking with him, he said, what was interesting about Danville, and not everyone, but a lot of people in Danville are very well connected. So, you have a lot of people with private jets, like hundreds of millions of dollars. You have very successful attorneys or people who have very competent, successful attorneys. And he said people were not really interested in actually doing anything beyond talking. And so they would stay there. They would have all these gripes, and they would come to him with all of these problems. And then they would say, okay, like, these are our problems, but there are scouts also coming. So, like, we can't take our kid off the baseball team. So we're going to put up with all of these issues. We're not going to vote with our feet. And I think that one of the distinctions you have with people in Dry Creek in general is that they were the people who actually had the horsepower and capacity, personal capacity, to get up and leave. Like, right. We're gone. Like, we're not staying there. Like, that's very discriminatory.
Yeah,
right?
Here we are.
Right.
With this energy that we've built up. Oh, sorry.
No, get comfy. You're good.
So here we are, this energy we built up to even leave our families, leave our homes, leave where we grew up, or whatever. I don't know. Everyone has a different story that's here.
Sure.
But more or less came here for this, similar reasons. If you talk to enough people, it's generally going to be, one of three things. And so, then all that energy to get out took a lot, right? And now that that's not what I mentioned, now that that's kind of waning, it's like, okay, I'm here now, I'm settling in,
right?
And I believe now is the opportunity to to recharge that energy, what brought everyone here, and say, look, can we do more? And I'm not just talking about commercial property here in the corner, but any business development, any good idea. And the whole idea behind the network is to have, a large amount of good ideas coming up all the time, and the group just talking about it. Not everyone needs to join in. If someone's like, hey, that's right up my wheelhouse, I have experience in that, I'd love to join that team. Or someone's like, you know what, I'll throw 10 grand at it, cool, and they work out the deal, and we're doing grassroots business development. So it's you call the equity, you call the shots, and it's just about teamwork and getting things done. Because you could spend your entire life talking about a good idea you had and never actually getting around to doing it because you don't know how to start. You don't have the resources, the network, or it's not
the bandwidth.
Deep enough, or the
like
bandwidth.
You just don't have the bandwidth to do it.
Yeah, a lot of times, a big problem is people have these great ideas, and you'll hear about it every barbecue or Christmas or whatever. They're like, hey, I got this great idea for a new sprinkler system, and then nothing happens, and then it comes out like 3 years later, right? How many people have had this, this happen to them where they've come up with a good idea and then they see it a couple of years later.
Right.
It's because you're not that smart.
And
eventually someone will always come up with something.
Yeah. I had a buddy who actually had this great idea. It was a good idea too. So he realized about 3-4 years back that there was a big push towards stretching your food budget, right? And he did a lot of food from scratch, and he made his own stock. And the problem that he always had is that recipes called for specific amounts of stock. So it's like 1 or 2 cups or like a quart or whatever. But he was like, look, we'd make stock. We'd make 2 gallons of stock and then just let it cool and then freeze it in like Ziploc bags. But these were not discrete quantities of stock, right? So like you'd have to kind of defrost the whole thing or like chop it up and guess. So he came up with a Stoctagon, right? So he made a octagon shape of different depths and made these castings in silicone. And it was like 1 cup, 2 cup, and whatever. And then you'd freeze them. And then once you froze them, you could pop them out because it was food grade silicone, obviously. So you pop them out and put them in Ziploc bags. And he's like, now every time you grab a stock that it's exactly this measurement. And he had this great idea and he was futzing around with it. He even, what is that? Is that you, baby? Come on now.
Sorry.
Is it the Stoctagon people?
This is Stoctagon people.
So anyway, so he came up with this and he started messing around with molds and doing stuff. And then for like a 6 or 12-month period, he got distracted with something. He ended up needing to move companies. Because this was his side hustle, right? Move companies, do this other stuff. And damn it, dude, like a year later, this company went on Shark Tank or something and got like $5 million in funding because they had come up with the same thing. It wasn't an octagon shape. It was just, rectangular solids. But
sure.
They recognized the exact same thing that he did, which is, hey, here's a problem. This is kind of where the food industry is going or where home cooking is going. And, they solved the problem. And to your point, I think almost everybody has one of those ideas.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like if he had just had a buddy who could help keep pushing it through. Because when left to our own devices, like I get excited about a million things, right? As do you. Mm-hmm. And it's like I might push really hard for a month and I'm like, oh, I got I stubbed my toe. I can't keep going. I can't. So it's just something, you get tired. But if you have a partner to, kind of keep pushing you or they pick up the slack as you step back, the project keeps going.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I've built numerous businesses through collaboration versus just doing it on my own. I have one that I did with my brother, and that was hard, and it's still hard. It's still my best and most successful business, but it wasn't the easiest route, because there was a lot of 60, 90-hour weeks and stuff. But a few other ones that come out of the Southern California group, I more or less was on the board for vision and kind of helped rebrand. And then I threw some money in, and I got 25% of it. And he was fine, and the guy ran with it, and he's day-to-day operations. It's great. I check in like once a quarter, and that's it. And so it's nice to replicate. If you have a skill set or money to throw at something to make it happen, easier for the person that wants to actually bring this to life, then do it. And if that person is willing to release some of that equity to make it actually happen, and then we're in business. And so like understanding these principles, I mean, just in the natural, I think I talked about this before with you, is that people have a natural tendency to want to contribute, right? I mean, look at GoFundMe. You get almost nothing other than your own, pat in the back when you help someone on GoFundMe. Look at like Wall Street bets. You look at these trends where people are starting to recognize the power they have with their own money, and that it can affect change. And people are more willing to see the cause and effect of their efforts versus throwing it to some, nonprofit or whatever, and then it getting dwindled down by executive salaries and shit. So like this new approach to handling commerce and kind of saying, we don't need the banks. We don't need to get a loan for a business idea. What if I go to a few people in my network and say, hey, here's a great business idea. I'd rather give them the upside of the equity and say, yeah, fuck the banks. Screw giving them the upside, and they're going to kick you down anyways to where you're going to be in debt you'll never get out of. And so, or then if you do have a successful business, you get a PE firm or a venture capitalist come in, and they're going to buy you for pennies in the dollar because they see the upside, but they don't want to tell you that. And so this whole idea of being able to crowdfund and crowdsource ideas and then vet them in a network, I think is what's next. And I think to be candid, this Moonlight Collective is a beta test for a social productivity platform that I'm designing, where now it's no longer just the community, but the entire nation or world. And we're just connecting people with the same intention. They're there to be productive. It's social productivity. And it's the same thing, a network of creators, doers, and investors who are all driven to make more money or make change in their lives without having to deal with the regular routes. It's grassroots development. And I think it will take off. And so far it was really successful down south. After I left all that. And unfortunately, I put myself in a position there where it wasn't running unless I was running it. And so that's what I'm hoping in this first meeting is explain, like, look, the whole thing is this is supposed to be a market in its own right. Like, it's supposed to, you go off and make your own ideas. What I want to do is provide the platform and guidance and just kind of arrange things. But by no means do I want to be the one that has to keep everyone motivated. Like, you should be able to be motivated yourself to continue to work. So
the thing I've always liked and appreciated about the Moonlight Collective idea is that I've never had a lot of money, right? So I'm not the guy getting cold calls from, do you remember the movie Boiler Room?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was essentially a fictional version of The Wolf of Wall Street, right? That was essentially outlined how they did. They were just churning through cold calling people. I've never been somebody to receive those calls, but I do know people who do receive those calls. And I have such a knee-jerk reaction when people talk about, like, hey, just invest this money and we'll do it all. A real estate mentor of mine told me that he was like, look, never get involved with somebody when you have a senior and junior partner in real estate. And I was like, oh, like, why is that? And I'm not saying he's the end-all be-all. There are plenty of people who have REITs and other real estate investments and partnerships that make fine money. But
right.
for his taste, he's like, look, this is how the senior and junior partner works, right? The senior partner doesn't have money, but has a lot of experience. And the junior partner has money and no experience. And at the end of the deal, the senior partner will have the money and the junior partner will have an experience. So that's it. And so,
this is the trade-off.
Yeah. You just get this straight trade.
Yeah.
And it was interesting hearing him talk like that and outline that, because I've always had this knee-jerk reaction to, like, okay, so I just give you money and you tell me I'm totally hands-off and you're just going to go do all this stuff. But for you in this, it's like, no. You can be a creator, you can be a doer, you can be an investor. So, for instance, our friend Sam, right? Sam's come to the Fire Pit a bunch and hangs out. Yeah, Sam's great, right?
Yeah.
Sam has this epically valuable skill set of SEO, search engine optimization, right? So Sam can get anything to the top of the search engine. Mm-hmm. And in hearing about his rise to, like, fandom and stardom in this world, it's really interesting to recognize Sam has the skill set that very few people have, but is super crucial. And I'm not trying to pitch Sam getting involved in anything, but
I've already talked to Sam about it. He's ready.
Well, there you go.
To jump on.
Because again, Sam has a skill set that very few people have. So it's not like Sam has to come to some project with, like, his checkbook and he's like, look, this is what I'm going to add.
Yeah.
And then another guy's like, and this is what I can add. And then another guy's like, look, I can't do any of those things, but I can fund a little bit of it. So you it's not this thing where it's like, okay, senior and junior partner. senior partner is ending up with all the money and the junior partner just has the experience.
Right. So what's happening here is the Moonlight Collective, as well as the eventual platform that I want to build, and has a different name. I've already designed the MVP for it, and I went through this process, and I learned that the trade-offs, right? So when you have the ability to trade off skills for a lower barrier of entry into business development, or marketing or engineering. Let's say there's someone who's like, I was talking to Mike Ulrich, and I found out that he knows how to do like full drafts for molds. Like if you have an invention, he can make a mold, and he went to school for it. I didn't even know that, and I'm like, dude, like that's so valuable. Like, you know how expensive it is to make a mold for any product?
Yeah,
like,
prototyping, yeah.
I think on one of the products I had, I spent like $6,500 just for design templates so I can put a patent on it.
Yeah, right.
And like those types of trade-offs can be done with equity. So it's a slower pay. Obviously you're not getting the money right away, and so keep doing what you're doing, right? But if you can find, the bandwidth to add value by trading off skills for equity, and you see the upside, then why not if you have the time to do it? And so I think that's going to be, the crowdsourcing of it all, right? The LinkedIn type profiles on this platform, or just a connection to LinkedIn. But people will start to develop their own profiles on this platform. Like, that's the guy we go to for this. So he might be combing ideas that fits to his specific skill sets and go, great, this is working. I just made, I'm getting 2 or 3% of like hundreds of businesses by just doing a mold design, like, so be it. It took me 10 hours and I got it done, but it saved the company. So the whole thing is contributing to lowering the barrier of entry into business ownership. And what's unique was a couple years ago, they lowered the investor qualification. So now you can invest in a company at a lower cost or lower price. You don't have to be a qualified investor anymore like we used to have to, like go through all the things like to have a certain income to be able to invest in companies.
Yeah, Kiyosaki talks about that in his third book, What the Rich Invest in That the Poor Don't.
Right.
Yeah, he talks about it because he's hanging out with his friends, and they're like,
Yeah.
he says, "Why can't I just invest with you guys?" They're like, "You can't.
You can't.
Invest.
You're not there.
You cannot do what we do."
But so like you take this kind of like Shark Tank type approach that the world's been living in, right? This model of the big money pushing around the people that are actually executing the work, and all they're there to do is to get a higher upside. So they're trained to kill you in equity and say you're not worth as much as you think it is, and here's why. And they just go through their formulas of EBITDA, and they say this is what you're worth, and then you feel like you got no other option, and so you take the deal and you get fucked, and it happens all the time.
Did you see that Shark Tank episode where the woman with a bed bug test came in? It was wild, right? So she had an international patent on it, and it was so you go to any hotel in the world, right, and you take your little bed bug kit, and you just slip it under the mattress for like 45 minutes or something, and then you come back and you find out if there are bed bugs there or something. And Kevin O'Leary, right? So they do their presentation. This was years back. They do their presentation. Kevin O'Leary stands up and he's like, "Excuse me, ladies, could you please step outside for a minute?" And they were like, "Yeah, I guess." So they step outside, and O'Leary turns around and is like, "All right, we all want a piece of this. There's no reason to fight. Let's come up with a deal now and offer to them collectively." Because they all knew. They were like, "Oh, shit.
The upside's
big. Upside's big."
Mm-hmm.
And so they reduced the competition because that's obviously how the inventor, right, the creator, the business owner, pits the sharks fight the business owner, but then the business owner gets to pit the investors against each other. So you have, somewhat of an equilibrium there.
Right.
But again, when they removed that competition, they're like, let's beat this lady to the ground and get as good a deal as possible. There's no reason for us to fight against each other. But the Shark Tank was actually one of the first representations, at least in mass media, that I saw where the investors weren't just saying, "Hey, I'll give you this money and blank." They were also offering specialties, right? Like they were to some degree, right? And things that fell within their
That's
wheelhouses.
always happened, right? So there's so many groups out there that specialize in certain things. Like in my business, I get hit up by like healthcare PE firms like on a regular basis, right? So,
but are they trying to add input to your thing?
So they're like, hey, they're trying to tell me like, hey, if you sell to us, we're gonna make it big. They talk about their smart money, right? And so go back to the Shark Tank thing. So what this platform will be is more of a minnow pool, and it will carry that voice. The voice of this platform is like, fuck the man, fuck the big banks, screw them all. We can do this ourselves. We don't need it. We can go to them in the second round and exit that way. But to develop businesses and create wealth can be done as a little $100 investment. You get a small piece of equity. And so the SEC made a rule where you can invest a micro investment for equity. This happened a few years ago, and now you start to see companies like Start Engine come out, right? And the difference between Start Engine and what I'm proposing is...
Well, explain Start Engine.
Start Engine is a crowdfunding platform. It's funny enough, Kevin O'Leary is the main face of it.
He's got his finger in a lot of different things.
So Start Engine takes companies, existing established businesses or startups, and they build a profile for them, and they allow the network of people to invest as little as, I think the cheapest price is $200, and you can get equity. And I love it. I actually invest on there on a regular basis. I'm always investing in good ideas, and it works. I'm actually going to be doing a Start Engine fundraiser for my main company because I'm so tired of dealing with the VC people, and I'd rather have my friends and family get the upside of where my company's going. And so I'm like, yeah, screw them. They can come next. They can go on the big exit. They want to spend, because their argument is always, we have to spend more money, and we have to take more risk, and so we're just going to lower your valuation because we have to spend a certain amount of money, and we have to make sure we buy like 80-90% of your business. And so like I would rather them do that when it's at the next stage. Like for our company, we're about to launch and scale dramatically with just a small input of cash. And so we've been arguing back with these VC firms saying we only need $5 million. We don't need you to pay us $50 million. We need $5 million. And then our $5 million will make our company $300 or $400 million of value. We don't need the 50 and you just take and you get the 300. That's not what I want to do. So I'll let them come in next round. But I've had family and friends for the past 10 years say, how do I invest in your company? And I'm, again, the same approach. I'm like, we don't have enough money. I need this amount. And then now there's this vehicle, Start Engine, that I can use that allows me to offer like a regulatory offering. It's called Reg CF out to people, and they can invest. And I think our opening is $300. And so if you have $300, do it. You're going to turn it 10x, 30x, 40x it, whatever you put in. And so I'd rather give my friends, family, and the public that upside. And so the same thing is similar in what I'm trying to do here is the platform will be a grassroots development, so pre-business formation, right? Which is different because Start Engine is going to pick it up the ball after the business has been formatted. You've already had your partners, you've already done designs, you have forecast. This is before that. It's almost like a feeder system, right? Where it starts with an idea. An idea gets posted, the community votes on it and says, this is a great idea, right? If you get enough votes, you have a viable business, right? Then you open up what's called a request for contribution, saying, okay, I'm ready to turn this into something. I need a lawyer, I need an engineer, I need $100,000, and I want to form a business. So that's when the crowdsourcing comes in about, or the crowdfunding. They put up their offer, they put up whatever they feel it's worth. If people invest, value's set. It is what it is. You don't have to go through a valuation system or anything. It's just like, if I feel like it's good, I'm going to do it. And so that's how we're going to exponentially grow business ownership with people that might not have networks. You might live in a lower income community where you're not around a bunch of rich people who can give you money. But if you have a good idea, does that mean your idea never comes to fruition? Yeah, more than likely. A big portion of the United States, at least, will have no opportunity to ever get their idea off the ground, so they turn to other things, or they stick into their 9-to-5s and they can't get out; they're stuck. And so, what I wanted to create was this platform to be able to give people an opportunity to get out of this, fucking baking Shark Tank mentality and become a minnow pool and say, look, with enough of us, we can make waves. And with enough of us, we can actually create businesses without the need of banks or without the need of big, rich, VC firms and stuff. So
yeah, a dear friend of mine, Adam, grew up together, and he was this monster musician, incredible guitarist. In fact, toured internationally, and he always had a problem. He was coming up pre, like iTunes, right? So he graduated high school in 98. And so the whole play in 1998 was like, okay, you have to get big enough that you get onto a radio, right? On like, new rock or whatever. And then you have to get big enough on the radio or popular enough within an area that a record company will take a shot at you. Because in the absence of a record company, you're never going to make it. Like you can't get anywhere. And as things started shifting, he realized that the record companies were these like dying giants. Because they needed people to be beholden to them. That's the only way the mechanism worked. Because if people could make music outside of that, it became very, very difficult for the record companies to continue existing. Right. And interesting, geez, I'm like marking up my hand with this pen. I don't know what's happening. I don't know. It was on the table, bro. Anyway, so the point is, interestingly enough, the music industry never shifted completely away from the industry because there's so much more that goes into developing a sustaining band. Like if you want to put on a concert, that's astronomical sums of money, and the concert promoter is not going to go in on it unless they know that they're going to get something out of it. So the music industry lagged a bit, but the artistic industry and comedy industry took off. Because now you no longer, because we had this decentralized form of media, right? Mm-hmm. Like you could go on to like YouTube and make music, right? Or you could go onto YouTube and make comedy, or you could go on to TikTok and, be an artist or anything. So the point is this decentralized system actually yielded incredible results for people outside of music in particular, but like comedy and art and education and things like that. And now you're just applying laws of power because you have somebody who may have, for instance, a great idea, right? In the investing world, all you need is a cell phone to pitch an idea, right? All you need to do is get it put down on pen and paper and start getting it out there, or have like a small proof of concept that you put onto social media in some form, and then people will start finding you. But you don't have that barrier to entry like you're talking about that you used to have.
Yeah, that's because the platforms are built, right? And so when you build a platform, you're creating network effects, right? And so there's this book called Platform Revolution. You should read it. It's a freaking good book. And what's unique about it is like, look at like YouTube. YouTube created a platform. The market, the people in that network created the opportunity and made it what it is. Same thing, Facebook, Instagram. They're all platforms. Amazon, platform plus a solution, fulfillment. Had they not created a marketplace and fulfillment services, sellers wouldn't have gone to them for the easy button, and then it wouldn't be what it is today. And so, like, same thing, man. It's if we create the platform for this to lower the barrier of entry in business ownership or in equity or wealth, then, I believe the market will kind of just take care of itself. There'll be eventually experts who feel like they're really good at finding good ideas. There'll be miniature groups set up. There'll be things set up like this. And so, I don't know, to take it back off the platform and back to here in the community, we have such a nice, small, close-knit community full of a bunch of energetic people, a bunch of people who have a lot of guts to come here, have probably a lot of skill sets, just the right amount of extra money, and that energy to do something with it. And so that's why I said, you know what, let's do it. Let's make this the beta test. And something I want to do with the platform is I want to actually fund it and build it the same way a business will be built on it. So as I near the final pitch for all that, I'll probably go out to the community and everyone else I might know in my network and say, look, I don't want to go to an investment group to go get this. Let's do it together. We'll all get the upside of this. And so that's the approach. That's the approach people need to kind of shift into and saying, okay, cool. Like, we're in this together. Let's make this work. And let's just get it done and start making shit happen. So I'm excited to get it launched. And I've been trying to I have a few milestones I want to hit. So I want to finish the school design. So I'm working with the architect.
Tell me about that, because somebody told me the other day that you were self-funding an alternate school design with an alternate traffic pattern. And again, just going to get it all ready and then present that to BHH and say, hey, look, this is a superior design to what you have in place. Far more people are going to be happy with it, especially the traffic pattern, man. Like the idea that we're going to funnel all the cars through the community, like literally coming down Mirror Pond or Brooks or something, is like, why would we do that?
No, yeah. I mean, and that's where, like, well, we should chat about the inadequacies between builder communications and residents at some point. But, you know, me being who I am, I like to observe, you know, problems and then try and find a solution, right? That's just my nature. And so I joined the board for the charter school because I had not only heard the issues with it being a 10, 12-year delay before Ada County actually puts a school there, which is not helping any of the people that actually invested in this community.
It's not helping.
You know,
it's not helping
maybe
us.
the third or fourth turnover, and they get all the upside. But also the residents that are a little worrisome about the traffic and all those things, and then you have the you know, miscommunication between where the arena is going to be, and there's a lot of stuff happening. It's like, to me, it's like there's two entities. There's the builder and then there's the residents, and the angst and that energy right now that I was talking about is all building up, and it's going after the builder. I mean, there's a lot of people are angry, and I get it. I understand it. I think that if we can find a way to communicate with Boise Hunter as partners and say, look, we are trying to build this community with you. We want this to be the best community in the valley. I know you want it to be the best community in this valley. Let's start working together. Let's get a higher cadence of communication. Let's go through logical things and say, you know, if you tell us, oh, that was a bad vendor, they weren't showing up, we have to replace them. Tell us that. We'll be a little more understanding versus just getting a call from someone saying, sorry, we're no longer doing warranties anymore. Peace out. And then you're on a whole new scheduling block, and then, you know, so like these types of things are happening where people are getting very upset, and the plans are changing and shifting, and with little to no communication, because you have one entity just doing whatever they want to do, and then you have the residents who are actually living here going, what the fuck? And so I think what needs to happen is start applying business logic and community logic to this together and say, like, okay, what do we really need? What would make an impact to lower the tensions, right? And start putting that energy together to actually build a great community.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you can't find solutions unless you actually know what the problems are. And the community, oh yeah, there's Coaster over there. But Farmer Dan had a great point. He's like, look, man, you just need like drink rings. Oh, like
clearly, dude.
Like, yeah, Tate, you can leave that Coaster there or not. But you can't address, first off, if somebody has a problem and nobody's really trying to understand the problem in depth, that just exacerbates the emotional push, right? Yeah. Like there's just fury. So like you're not even listening, right? It's like, it's not about the nail, you know? So you have that problem, but you're also never going to find a proper, like there's all kinds of solutions that could be really small. Again, another real estate mentor piece of wisdom. He said, look, some of the biggest cases and issues that I've seen, and this particular guy has been a landlord in Berkeley for like 40 years. He's never evicted a tenant. He's never had to issue a 3-day notice because he's like a Yoda when it comes to property management. He's really good with tenant relations. And he said, look, Matt, here's the thing. If you let the little things become a problem, they will cost you exponentially more than the things that were big problems to start with. Yeah. He said, look, if you have a big problem with a deck, it's going to cost you a certain amount of money. You're going to have to address that. And, you know, nobody's happy that you have to replace the deck, but it is what it is. But he said one of the biggest cases he saw that ended up costing tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees started with a leaky faucet. And it started with this leaky faucet. The tenant was really bothered by it. The landlord took his sweet time to fix it. Landlord did fix it eventually. But the tenant by this point was so frustrated that the tenant wanted an apology. Now, mind you, an apology costs $0, like zero. Yeah. But the landlord, you know, for whatever reason, it sounds like somebody who's very nearsighted was just like, yeah, no, I'm not apologizing to you. I fixed your faucet. And then it just exacerbated the situation, right? If there was just an apology in that particular situation, it was something like $60,000 or $70,000 in attorney's fees, because Berkeley's a very tricky place to be a landlord. But the point is, you could have averted all of that. You could have avoided all of it. There are problems that pop up that sometimes are real. Like, for instance, the telephone poles. That's a real problem. That's a large physical problem that people see every single day.
Yeah.
That is something that an apology likely will not suffice in resolving. But there are other things like, hey, I know you want another park, and we're going to have to put the other park here, and some people aren't going to be happy about it, and I am sorry. But there are there are things like that where you just say, hey, I'm sorry, like, you will be up next. We're not doing this maliciously. We had to pick a spot. We had 2 spots. There are pros and cons to both. This is just what we picked.
Right. Logic is not something that is only on one end. Like, if someone comes to you and tells you the logic behind their decision up front, then you're not making up a story in your head. You're not getting all crazy about it. You're not getting that angst growing,
right,
and converting that anger into worse things. And so I really, truly believe that Boise Hunter needs a high cadence of communication between what they're doing, what the residents are asking for, and then just responding once a week. Come on this freaking podcast and have a list of information,
right? Just a 20-minute thing.
Say, hey, okay, here's
twice a month, whatever it is.
Right, here's the situation. And what happens is that communication might open up new opportunities. Let's say they said, oh, you know what, we can't get it done because we don't have a contractor. And there's a guy here in town and say, hey, or in the community, hey, why don't we just do that together? I'll do it with a few other guys here. We know how to do that stuff. We'll get it done. Give us the permission.
Right.
And all of a sudden now there's no contractor delays. Like, there's a lot of opportunity just by communication. We have to understand the problems that are leading to their decisions for us to feel good about the decisions they're making.
Right.
Otherwise, we're left in the dark to sit and guess and think that this builder doesn't care about us. And we all want the best community because, 1, we're living here and we want to enjoy it. And 2, we want our equity to go up just as much as he wants to be able to sell houses for more.
Right.
So we can have a logical business conversation about what really needs to get done and what we can tick off, what we can't, and go through those without having to take it to this level where there's litigation involved and there's fighting, and then now you've got egos and someone just won't say sorry because it's why? Because this is the ego? Get the fuck out of here. Let's focus on the intention of the community and get it done. And eventually, with higher communication, I think a lot of the anger and angst towards the builders will go away. Anyway, so I'm hoping that they hear this and they'll get someone on here.
I think your point is really well taken, which is, look, it comes down to communication. We're having an issue with our house recently. Not even a major issue with the house. We were trying to get something added on. We're trying to get a hot tub. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's like, we got a great deal from Costco. Shout out Costco, great hot tubs. But, we had to get electrical put in because, you can't just plug it into a wall socket. And the issue that we have is we purchased our house less than a year ago. And so if we start manipulating the electrical panel without using the other guys, we void our warranty. So they're like, okay, look, we'll use your guys, but your guys have to respond to us. And the issue we had over and over and over was that we couldn't even get a call back. Couldn't get a call back, couldn't get a text back, couldn't get anything. And here, we were the consumer that we were handcuffed to this particular contractor, and we couldn't get any movement on it. And if they had just said, even if it's communication that we didn't like, even if it was, hey, here's the deal. We have a lot of people. We're fulfilling the warranties right now. There are issues with people moving in that have real issues. They're not even trying to add on supplemental stuff. So you will get your hot tub, and we apologize, but it's going to be 6 weeks. And yes, that's terrible. We'll give you a really good deal on it. Or listen, use this subcontractor because we can't get to it. We will still guarantee their work, and they can get to you in 3 weeks. Whatever. Right. Even if you don't like the answer, just giving us the dignity of communication is far superior than have you called them again today? It's yeah, I called yesterday, I called today, I texted them, I haven't heard anything back. And it's well, did you get a hold of the warranty people? It's yeah, we wrote them an email. They said they'd look into it. And like you're saying, you just start imagining, malicious intent, which is not hard to do. You start coming up with stories or reasons why. You do all of the bad things that lead to unpleasant interactions that could have been avoided with a dumb phone call. just say anything to me.
Yeah, and I think there's an inflection point here where the builder was experiencing such easy sales for a very long time. And this is a narrative that I bet you a lot of residents will have here because of the lack of information. So we created this narrative, right? So we can easily go, oh, he's just being stingy.
Evil builder.
Yeah,
stingy.
just being greedy. He's resting on his laurels with the community and that. And he doesn't want to put any reinvestment in because it's so easy for him to sell houses. Now, that could be true. But the problem is those are only founded from rumors
and people's assumptions.
And it's not based on actual experience or words coming from their mouths.
Right.
And so,
if anybody noticed, we're experiencing a nation, like a worldwide employment shortage.
Yeah.
Right. So even the best, most well-intentioned businesses, like Pete's Coffee, right? Pete's Coffee back in Danville, they had to start closing at like 2:00. And I knew the managers, they all had my merch. I'm like, dude, what's going on, Claudia? She's like, you have no idea. We can't get anybody to work. Like the people that are working haven't had a day off in a month, and it's terrible. So, and you had customers that were then being detoured, like literally had like detour signs, like go to the one 5 miles away. And you're like, you're pissed. But again, when you dig in, it's not people just saying like, well, they have all our money, they have all our customers, they don't care. Like they wanted to fulfill the desire of the community. They could not get employment.
Well, yeah, you look at like how many vendors are contracted here to actually build the homes. It's not Boise Hunter has their own team of every single function for building, right? They hire it out. And if that vendor is not performing, then it reflects on the builder, and the builder has to eat that responsibility and get yelled at by the residents. And so, I mean, I get it. I get the challenges that they had to come up with, and I think they could have avoided a lot of this issue if they had just been more forthright with communication. And I think people can logically go, all right, okay, cool. Thank you for letting me know. And like, that's totally fine. Like today, my painter, they switched painters. And so they're like, oh, sorry. We're no longer doing warranties for Boise Hunter. Good luck. And I'm like, all right, well, thank you for letting me know. I wouldn't maybe have not known that I've been reassigned to someone else. Who knows when I would have been told that. And so like, there's an opportunity here to kind of close the gap in the relationship between the residents and the hunters.
Right. And that is not to say that, one, the hunters have not made bad decisions. I don't know that they absolutely have, and there are plenty of people who are like, I'm displeased with this, and that's totally fine. Like, I don't know the particulars of people's situation, but I do know that the poor communication does not make it better. And whatever answers they have to, hey, yeah, we have assigned a new painter, that may not make you as the homeowner happy, but at least you're being informed.
Right. And I think that's important because I mean, I feel for the builder as well. I understand there's a business case behind everything they need to make a decision on, and I don't want be part of a resident group that is constantly angry at our builder, because that's not making a good community, right? And the community becomes a great community based on its reputation, and if its reputation is based around a bunch of angry residents, it's eventually going to leak out, and all of a sudden they're going to have less absorption, and then all of our home values go down, and we're not getting the amenities we want. So we're in this together, and we need to start acting like it, and we need to start working together to build this great community. And that means there's going to need to be some concessions and some outside of the box thinking. Say, hey, we want another park, cool. What if the community raises money and the hunters match it, or if we want to build an extra something, like how can we increase the speed of these amenities? Because one, it's going to end up drawing more buyers, and two, you're going to make everyone happy, and then all of a sudden we start creating a more friendly relationship between the builder and the residents, and we actually get things done, and this community becomes bigger and bigger because people want to be here, because people who live here are loving it here. Right now, that inflection point is happening where they're no longer experiencing easy sales, and the market and the interest rates and stuff are dictating how much people are buying and moving and all that, and things are releasing in places that people are coming from. And so they're like, okay, maybe I went through the worst, and I'm going to hang around another 6 months, wait out the interest rate. So they're not in a rush to move anymore, and so they're not buying houses as fast. That inflection point is happening, and so what I see a missed opportunity here is if Boise Hunter doesn't pick up on the fact that they need to do something like this. They need to do something that is going to get this community together, to temper down some of the anger and just explain some things to people and be realistic and be logically talking to all of us, talking about what we can do, what's not possible, what is possible. You know, I mean, the power lines is a whole thing. I think that was a complete surprise to everyone that it's impacted. And I think it's a dumb business decision because I'll tell you what, I'm not buying a 1 acre lot with telephone wires. If I want to do that, I'll have 10 acres and then that'll be my that'll be my power line. And so like, that's fine.
Yeah, right.
But,
yeah. And the view lots, I mean, it's like everybody on the north side of Brookside, or excuse me, on the south side of Brookside that looks north. It's like you have these gorgeous decks and these incredible outdoor areas that you're just staring at power lines.
I mean,
like, why would you do that?
I mean, and you'll see in your bylaws and stuff, is no one's guaranteed a view, blah, 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 blah.
Sure,
but
that's true. We can also exercise common sense, which is, hey, somebody paid 1.6 for this house with a second-story gorgeous deck. I understand we're not guaranteed something, but like, doesn't this kind of fly in the face of logic when you're selling houses with decks?
And it starts affecting us as homeowners because it will lower the value. Now I have to go to the next buyer, my house, and you know, they have to look at that power line and they have to go, well, that sucks. I don't want, that's like impeding on my view. That's not what I wanted. But, and then more than that, I mean, I would say a good portion of the people living in this community came from Southern California or California in general, which is, you know, always a fire danger.
Right.
And how many people I know who have lost houses because of power lines, a tree hitting a power line or whatever, and just exasperating from there. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot more dangers just than the lack of view that come into play when you're putting power lines in a community like this. It's It's okay if it's a single power line to a house on 10 acres and then they drill it on the ground a few hundred yards away from your house. That's fine. But we're talking about a multi-million-dollar community, and we've got power lines in one of the, you know, arguably one of the most, you know, appealing streets before they were there.
Yeah, right.
And now we got these big old power lines. It just makes no sense. And
yeah, that Brookside corridor, when you're driving east off of 55, not the 55, when you're driving east off of 55, you have this gorgeous view of the foothills and everything.
Yeah.
And now when you're, in fact, even before the power lines went in, I remember thinking that I was going to be a little bummed when the trees grew too big. It's like, God, this view is just
especially when it was all green and like early.
Yeah, or even in the snow.
Yeah.
Like when everything was just white, it looked like I was in Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
this is
sick.
awesome.
I love driving down that street.
Right,
yeah.
and now you're going to have these power lines obstructing the view. And again, it was one of the most beautiful corridors to be driving down, and especially considering it was theoretically supposed to be the entrance of Dry Creek, because you have Dry Creek Road, right? But that also feeds, you know, other communities, and I know it separates the Hills community, right? The houses that are being built there. But you see the banners, like you see the Dry Creek, you know, windmill and everything when you're turning onto Brookside. So that's really the flagship like entrance into the community, and here we have these power lines there.
And there was an opportunity to put them under.
Well, there's still an opportunity.
No, I'm saying, but there was an opportunity to put them under, and this is where you have these silos entities, right? You have the residents in their silo, and you have the builders in their silo, and that's never going to work if you're trying to build something together, like. And I could understand a builder's perspective saying, screw it. You want to leave. Go ahead. See it. Peace. I'll sell it to another person. Well, that inflection point is happening now, and it's not going to be so easy. And if people start selling out their houses, right, and it lowers the value, and all of a sudden a bunch of listings happen, then you can't come out with a price point new. And now your projections are going down.
And we don't know that's necessarily
it's a steamroll.
But to your point, we don't know that that's necessarily the builder's opinion, which is like, screw you, I don't care. I'll sell.
Of course not.
Else.
Yeah, no, right.
But that's what people feel like.
That's the narrative when they're acting in silos. And so, if there was an opportunity to say, hey, look, you know, call a meeting or whatever, say, hey, look, we have this opportunity to put them under or over. You guys, it's out of our budget. Any ideas we can do? Maybe we can community finance it, roll into the HOA. Like, what can we do to do this? And because it's better for everybody. And so, like, that's just one example of a lot of examples happening in this neighborhood so far that I've observed just by being here. like 6 months, not even 6 months now. And so, and I just see that opportunity coming now and going away soon if there isn't a connection being made between the two entities here.
Right, because the attitude and sentiment is almost like grandfathered in. Because then you're going to have, people in a year or 2 or 3, like a large pool of people that have gone through this process now that are like, hey, man, they do not stand by their word, or these are the problems that we're having, or be careful for this, or make sure you get that 11-month inspection because blah, 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 like all, and there's no need for that. As you're saying, it's when everybody wins, everybody wins.
Exactly.
And there's no reason why, especially just consider the 1 and 2 acre lots that are north of Brookside, right? Like, what would it cost adding on to each of those lots? What are there, like 40 lots or something up there? Let's say there are 40. How much would it cost to add on, like, whatever the portion is to get those power lines underground? Like 10 grand? Or is it like
nothing.
$400,000, $500,000 to get the power lines put under?
I think it was about $300,000.
Okay, great. So let's assume there are 30 lots then. Add $10,000 onto the price of each of those. And of course, everybody's trying to get the max dollar anyway. It's not like the builder's walking away from a $10,000 thing. But if you could just allocate $10,000 from that, that would save all of those residences that you're asking. Some of them are up for like $2 million. Some of them are up for astronomical. Yeah, the loss there.
Yeah,
you're going to make your $10,000 back.
Yes, I mean the loss that you're going to have to take, and I would be very surprised to learn that no one cares about power lines, and they're not going to adjust their price or their decision on what lot they make based on power lines.
A $2 million
I can't
home,
imagine anyone not considering
on,
that, right? So, I mean, it's logical to go. You're going to get less money because these power lines are there now.
Yeah, right.
And you're going to get a lot of pissed off current homeowners because the power lines are there. Why was this the decision that was made? And could it have been reversed? And it will be reversed. And it will cost more money now. And so, like, these are just things that we could avoid by communication. We could avoid these problems from happening, like the stables and the community rec center. And, like, so all these things are just like all of a sudden one day there's a stable and it doesn't look like it's in the spot that everyone thought it was going to be.
And then now there's a berm.
Yeah,
there's a giant berm.
Yeah, now you got all these homeowners who were building houses on that cul-de-sac going,
right.
What the shit is this? I'm going to have a bunch of I'm a horse shit in my backyard. And now if it was presented to them and they had the opportunity to know beforehand and they could have made, a reasonable exception, but they get blindsided with this stuff because of the lack of communication and just this siloed just doing it. That's what's happening. And so anyways, just to wrap that part up, it was just, I really think that there's an opportunity here for them to create some type of cadence communication. And it seems like your podcast could be that spot.
I appreciate you. But tell me about the school. Because
that's how we got it.
You had ideas about how to do this. Because as of right now, when Stephen was talking at the HOA meeting, he's like, look, I don't know the traffic patterns for sure, but the entrance would be on, Tower Creek.
Right.
Okay, so the entrance
which still means they're coming in through.
That's right. So they're either going to have to come down east down Brookside and then cut into Mirror Pond, right, and hit Tower Creek, or they're going to go all the way down Brookside, come up West Cardinal, backtrack, and then come around the corner. Or of course they'll do the Dry Creek and then they'll come up through the community off like Brooks or something that way. And it's like, all of those seem like really poor ideas, unless you have 100% attendance from Dry Creek, which obviously we will not have in any elementary school. Mm-hmm. Unless you had 100% attendance, you're going to have this outside traffic that's funneling through our streets where kids are going to be walking, they're going to be riding their bikes, they're going to be taking their little scooters, they're going to be doing whatever. It just seems like funneling the main traffic artery through the neighborhood is a huge mistake.
Well, that's a lot of residents' issues with the school in general and why it's not getting as much support as we need. And I think that's why I'm rushing to get, and that's why I'm deciding to just pay for it myself. I'm rushing to get a rendering of a plan that would flow the traffic around the neighborhood through the eventual community rec center and horse stables, right? And have a nice turnaround there, maybe a little larger parking lot than was initially, put a parking lot along the side, but don't have an entrance up there in Tower. Because if that's the idea is if that's for walk-in only, right? So there's no street entrance for cars to actually get in, then we have like no stopping signs right there, paint it whatever color we need to paint it. To incentivize people, like, hey, if you're in the community, walk into the front, hit this side. If you're coming from outside the community, the buses are coming in. They're just going to go drop and do a loop. The kids walk through the park and into the school. And this will allow an opportunity for the school budget to pay for a portion of that larger parking lot and turn around, because they've already got to do it anyways. And it'll alleviate some of the, or at least all of the concerns of traffic flowing through. There's going to be someone that drives through and does it. I mean, but if we can reduce it by 80% by saying, if you live outside the community, go this way, here's your drop-off plan.
Right. So your idea would be to head east on Brookside, pass everything.
So,
and then make a right turn heading south, and the entrance would be over near where the horses
at the end.
and stuff.
So it'll be Brookside, take a right just past West Cardinal and Pepin Street there.
Yeah.
There's already that's where if you see the plans now, there's going to be like a pool and rec center, and then there's like a road that goes back to like the baseball wherever they can, little fields in the stadium. So if that becomes the new flow, right, and everyone goes around that way and they're out Brookside and then back, I mean, that's a tremendous amount of vehicles outside of our community that are no longer going through it. So.
Right. And then you have a school that my oldest went to for a couple years, one of the public schools. They had the main delivery system was on this main artery on Diablo Road. Okay, so that's where you had the like U parking lot and where a lot of people came in. But the rear, the field, right? Again, elementary school. The field had entrances on the back road, which was a residential road. And so again, people could walk in there, or they could, park and drop the kids off and leave. But you didn't have the majority of traffic coming through there. So in this idea, Tower Creek would be that field entrance where you have people coming from the community. They just walk across Tower Creek and then go into the school. But that would be
it'll still look like the front of the school.
Well, it would be like a big field entrance.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so you'd still have like a sign out front. You still have some things, and maybe the parking lot for the teachers is along the left side there, but not a connection to Tower, but just it's a one-way parking lot out the back. I'm still kind of developing this, but yeah. So, and then the idea behind this school is it's a very like ranch style looking school, very with the community. And so there's verandas and there's different entrances into different sides of the school. And, there's going to be an older kids section, young kids section. They come and go and they filter out in different parks and playgrounds and stuff that, that's another great thing I think people don't realize is that with the school, because of the way that, insurances work, we get to keep it open for after hours usage as a community. And so we can go run on the trails, we can go play on the playgrounds and
the baseball field.
Yeah, it's open. And so working with the hunters and working with the development plans in collaboration could not only just offset costs for Boise Hunter, but also deal with the traffic issues that people are having. And so I'm excited to get this done. I'm also trying to get that done soon before the launch of the Moonlight Collective here. So I can just show everyone and get people more energized into that, because it's also a side project of mine. I'm on the board now, and just because I want to make sure that this can come to fruition, because push comes to shove, the school is a good thing for the community. Whether you have kids or don't have kids, it's good for your equity. It's good for the overall safety of the neighborhood and then obviously the growth of the neighborhood. So if done in the right way, and we can try and listen to as many concerns as possible and design it in a way that makes everyone happy, then, they might lose. What's nice is maybe with the new design, the horse corrals shift a little bit, and that's going to take care of the angry people on the cul-de-sac. And maybe we replace the horse corrals with the baseball stadium, a baseball pitch or whatever, and whatever, soccer pitch and stuff like that over there, and then shift that a little closer to the creek.
And so still have the horse corral. Like
still have the horse corral.
Nobody's saying get rid of it.
Just shifting things to where everyone's going to win.
Right.
And so I am funding the design of that. It's not much, just because
it's more than I'm paying.
It's in my head, and I know that time is of the essence. We have to have this submitted, and everyone has to be on the same page. The Boise Hunter and the board have to be on the same page with the charter we're dealing with and which charter we're going for. And so we're doing analysis of what the right, place is. I think a big importance, and I think a lot of fears that brought people here was what was happening in the schools in California, for instance, and other schools in other places. And so like, I want everyone to know that like we're going to community value this school to where it's going to have its checks and balances to make sure those types of things don't happen here.
Right.
And we're going to, we're very aware of what people want in a school and what they don't want. And so that's going to be something that will be another attractive thing for people to come to this community and live here, because they all know this is a good school and it's a school with values and principles that we all believe in, the community believes in. So,
right. Like, give me the 3 R's. I want reading, writing, arithmetic. Like, give me the 3 R's and a music program. Like, throw in dance if you want. Yeah, but like, I think that's a very astute point, which is the public school in California in particular. That's, again, the one I know very well. They are trying to make the public school everything for everyone. And there was this instance recently where it's this horrible thing. This poor girl goes into the locker room after dance class to get changed. It's like second or third period or something. So she goes in and there's a dude changing in the locker room and she can see it's a dude. Right now, this is like a 15, 16-year-old girl, and that's a 15, 16-year-old guy. And the mom is incensed. She's like, I can't, like, you need to stop this. And the administration said, well, that person identifies as a female. So, like, we can't do anything about it. And, again, they're trying to be so much for everyone that when somebody says, hey, I feel like a girl, they're like, well, we need to be the place where you can be that girl, be your authentic self, instead of saying, hey, look, you do whatever you want on the weekend or after school. Right. Or better yet, don't even tell us what you identify or don't identify as. I'm here to teach you how to read, to write, and how to do some
prepare you for life.
Right.
That's it. Everything outside of it is on you. Like that's.
Well, I think the prepared for life. I think even that is too much, because some people say, like, why don't we teach things that are let's be clear.
Not like emotionally prepared for life. Like, you got to figure that on your own.
Or just like, hey, look, what is your life to you? Like, what are the life skills that you employ on a daily basis to be successful? And what are my life skills, right? Like, I might say, hey, we absolutely have to have like a multimedia class, right? Which used to be this funny extension of art class back in like the 90s. But now it's real serious, right? Like when you're dealing with a lot of different digital media. So that's important to me. It may not be as important to you. And you have your own, say, entrepreneurial bent on things. And then somebody else has a thing. So again, let's talk about school as what school is not. Right. School is not supposed to be preparing every single student for the individual ways that we all move through the world. Right. Because you might have a physician who's like, we need to boost up the science classes here. And it's like, well, it's third grade. They're like, they need chemistry. It's like, let's focus on the absolute most fundamental basics and give opportunities. My son was in a coding class at Seven Oaks last year. And it was awesome. And they were doing, coding in it's not really coding, but they were doing like a lot of Minecraft, and they were doing, small little programs. And my other son plays Geometry Dash on his iPad, and he programs levels, which I think is great. He's in third grade, and there are a lot of like if-then kind of commands and things like that. So they're learning these things, but they're doing it outside of school, because school is there to teach them math, teach them how to, they were going over change last year. So it's like different ways of getting to certain values with like quarters and nickels and, again, little stuff. But that's the point. Like, you can count your money. You don't need to know tax code. You don't need to know how to program. You don't need to know how to edit in GarageBand. Like, we're going to focus on this very small portion of stuff and then give autonomy to parents to fill in the gaps.
Kind of the traditional sense of school. Yeah, right? And I think that's something that hasn't been delivered to the community yet. Just like, the board's put in place to ensure values are carried out, and the school is designed, and it really comes down to picking out the right principal, and the principal is the one that's running day to day. And so that'll be a very heavy vetting process that we'll have residents weigh in on, and we'll have things that matter. I want to hear what you have to say and what's important to you. But the idea of like full inclusivity, it's too much. It's too much to consider everything for everyone in all things. And so you have to just kind of cut the line and say, this is the intention of the school. And it's, read, write, math, science. Okay, let's go.
Right.
Let's not make it more than it needs to be.
I actually think West Ada, at least from my experience so far, has done a very good job with this. Like if they
have.
if you could, I think the charter school could be a good idea because of the time frame. Right. But like if West Ada said, hey, do you want a charter school in a year or do you want us to build in a year? I don't have reservations with what I've seen from West Ada like I would if it were like a California district.
Sure.
Right. Like I think
Sure.
West Ada does a great job. I think the principal at the school my sons go to is great. Like I've never seen an administrator that I actually respected the way I respect this woman. And she, like, you see her work with the kids, you see her connected with them. And like, you are an educator. Like you're the one who's supposed to be here. And
Principals are carrying out the values, right? So
man, she's
they're
dynamite.
really important to have.
I have spoken with her a few times, briefly, but each time I'm like, damn it, man. All of your answers are better than the answers I could come up with. And like, I believe that you believe them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not dogging the curriculum by
No,
any
no,
means
no, no, no.
here.
I understand what you're saying, though.
For the advantages of getting this approval was to speed up the
Yes.
development of the school. And there's another advantage of being able to kind of write those guidelines and write those value systems as a school from like a founding board perspective. And so there's some value there as well because we get to kind of shift, certain ideologies that might come through on accident and ensure that they don't. So,
Well, do you think that that's a risk both ways? Okay,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
you
if you're the
you
wrong
essentially
people, yeah.
look at yourself. I mean, obviously, I think you have best intentions, and I'm speaking with some other people from the charter school board.
They're all great, yeah.
They're all great, but the concern I think ultimately that some people may have is, hey, you guys can write the value system, but like if the wrong people get in there, they can also write the value system. And
it's all about the principal. Like I said, I think everything comes down to hiring the right principal and really vetting that person out, making sure that they have a good vision for the school.
Yeah.
Because they're the one day to day, making sure that it's followed up on. They're the ones, talking to teachers, talking about curriculum, following up. So like, I think that's a big portion of the challenge. Right now, the first challenge is getting the approval because the sooner we get a school in here, the better we're off. And if we don't get this, it's September 14th, 6 p.m. And if we don't get the approval, then we're looking at another year delay. Right now, earliest start is like fall 2024 if we get the approval now. So just to give you an idea. So it's I think it's important that we get as much support as possible. And if people have questions, that we're happy to have like a taco night at the clubhouse to go through concerns, challenges, and see what kind of solutions we can come up with. Again, it's same. No one wants to operate in a silo here. It's about communication for an ultimate goal, and building a great community is that. So,
and also again, I think having longer conversations where things go back and forth. Like the best thing that I thought happened at the HOA meeting was at the end when they pulled up the questions.
I wasn't there. I didn't watch it.
It was funny because you could upregulate the questions. So like people would put questions and then people would vote to get the questions pushed higher on the agenda. That's cool. Right. Yeah. So it was cool. So you could figure out what was the most important for the most people. And so having something like that where the community gives input and then in a long, slow, deliberate conversation, with anybody on the board, it's like, okay, look, these are the questions. Let's just go one by one and let's talk through these, because doing it with
a high level of cadence, like let's not wait once a year to talk to people.
And in an echoey room where like people are screaming and it's also difficult. Right. Yeah. Again, communication. Yeah. It comes down to communication. And in an age where we have, Basil Hayden and coffee, there's no reason we can't have wonderful conversations, Ryan.
Well, Basil Hayden certainly helps.
Tell me, I've wanted to ask, you have from one of your Moonlight Collective crowd investors, you own a portion of a whiskey distillery. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, tell me about that. Because you brought up the whiskey distillery months back and were like, this is crazy. And then you're like, no, I already did this.
Yeah, I already did this. And I won't go into too much of that. It's great, actually. The name of the distillery is Sesame Creek Distillery. And one of our main frontmen is Josh Barnett, if you guys know who he is. And our whiskey's on Joe Rogan often. It's called Warbringer. And then War Masters, the Josh Barnett version. It's great shit, really smoky bourbon. Anyways, very niche market. and now we got a new round of investors. A big company came in and bought out all the small investors. I'm the last C-note person. Me and one other guy named Alfred. Alfred went around and bought all the other C-notes out. I was like, no, screw you, dude. I'm gonna continue this ride. Yeah, I'm not stupid. I'm not gonna just buy out for like 4x my money. I'm gonna wait for this to become.
I'm kind of offended you've never given me a bottle of this.
You know what? It's sold out everywhere. So
okay,
yeah.
Well, as a C-note investor, I'm sure you could get your hands on some. So walk me back through this, like from the beginning. Whose idea was the whiskey? Like, help me understand for anybody listening that might say like, okay, but wait, how does this actually work? You have done this.
So someone came to me, a distiller came to me and said, hey, love you to try. Actually, he came to me because he was going to buy a furnace. We had a boiler and a furnace that he needed. And because my main business, we sell like used equipment. And so and I was like, oh, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm using it for this process I invented. He had come from High West. If you guys know the High West, the High West brand, Campfire.
Listen, I drink
great
coffee,
whiskey,
buddy.
And
coffee and LaCroix.
So he had come from High West. He had developed a way to speed up the aging notes that happen chemically, and he wanted a piece of the pie, and they said no, and so he left and said, I get to at least keep my proprietary process. And funny enough, so he met with me, looked at the furnace, we started talking. I love whiskey, I love smoky whiskey, and so he's like, look, I've got this opportunity, I need investment. And I was like, well, I have a group. I've got a group of people that I can pitch this investment opportunity to. So sometimes it's not just coming from an idea and nothing. It's coming from an already established business, and there might just be an investment opportunity. Like I have all the time, I have friends and family saying, "Hey, you want to get in on this investment?" So I'll put it onto the group and say, "Hey guys, here it is, $10,000." Sounds weird now, but $10,000.
You sound great to me. I don't know.
$10,000 minimum investment, and here's what it looks like, your return will look like, or whatever. And so we'll present these just investment opportunities outside of the group that comes in, and then we just fund it that way. But anyway, so that's how this happened. Is come to find out he had actually worked for my dad like 20 years before, which was really funny. But and so we took a stab, and I invested, a few other friends invested, and we did a nice little tasting with the group, and we're like, this is awesome, it's great. It's been hands off. I don't weigh in on anything. I don't have any decision making. I'm just completely hands off investor, and so far I've 30x'd my investment. As a valuation, I can't cash in yet, but when it does cash in, hopefully it'll be more than that. And so I brought that up because I want to start a distillery here.
That was it, because you're like, I own a portion of this distillery. Of like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah,
but this is the type of thing that you're talking about, which is
little pieces of a lot of things.
Little pieces,
yeah,
little pieces, and people that have a passion. So this guy had ability. You obviously bring some investment and perhaps some other abilities. Like, people have ability. We have things that we can contribute to each other, other than just a transactional. Like, okay, here's my check. Go. Do whatever.
Yeah.
Because again, that barrier to entry, first off, if you're just walking around asking people for checks, that's a really rough way to get business off the ground. And if you're just a guy who people just hit you up for checks all the time and you have some valuable input, you're going to be far more hesitant. So
it all comes down to the platform.
Right. Like, let's develop something where people can share not just investment, but invest outside of monetary means. Like, you have ability, you have skill, you have creativity, you have ideas, you have whatever that may be, and that will reduce the barriers to entry and increase the probability that a business actually takes off.
Well, it'll perpetuate itself. Again, is if you build the platform, allow the community and the marketplace to perform and increase and find value in themselves on it, and they can increase value themselves without having to do much more than just continue to offer a platform, then you start to exponentially grow all these ideas and businesses and really just engagement. And so, so I'm excited to get that done. I think it's the right time, kind of like gauging again, like I've been here 6 months. I'm just observing things and gauging the energies, right? There's a lot of energy in this neighborhood.
There's a lot of energy in this community.
Yeah,
Lots.
and I think it's being misplaced, and people are forgetting the importance that we are still, even though we're on different streets or different cul-de-sacs or different areas, we're still very small. We're a very small community, and we should start acting like we're all on the same street. We should start acting like we're all in the same community, and we need to, avoid some of the conflicts that I've heard come up, and avoid some of the exclusivities that I've seen, over the course of being here, and start working together and say, look, okay, let's turn this energy, this, I don't want to call it like, high school mentality, but there's some high school mentality happening in this neighborhood. And I think it's because there's a lot of this energy. They all came here, and now they want to re-energize because now they're chill. Their houses are done.
Right.
And they're, some people have been here longer than others, and it's become like this weird dichotomy. And I think that
I was here 12 months
yeah,
ago.
yeah, like whatever, dude. Like we're here. We're all here together. We're all adults. We all want the best for our lives. We want the best for our kids, and we want the best for this community. Let's start acting like it. Let's start being productive. Let's work together. Let's be friendly with each other. If you don't like someone, that's cool. Keep it to yourself. If you like your close-knit friends, that's cool. You don't have to be fully inclusive. Like no one's trying to say that, but don't go out of your way to hurt somebody or create a rumor wheel about someone. And that's not helping a community. And we are at the very beginning. We're the pinnacle. Even though people have been here since, the first phase.
2020.
It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant compared to 10 years from now. And so if we build a sense of community now and we start doing really cool things together, then maybe we can remove some of the issues that are occurring that I've witnessed.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I felt inclined to say, okay, let's just do this. Let's turn this energy, this kind of boredom or, whatever's going on. Like there's just a lot of random things going on where people they're kind of just like, what do I do with myself? Okay, I'm just gonna get mad at this person, or I'm just gonna be angry at this person I don't know, or I'm gonna like assume something about these people or whatever. And
what do you mean, these people?
yeah.
Listen to me. Ryan,
Yeah.
I think your point is very well made. But speaking of doing things together, today is the first day of school, and I am going to take my sons to ice cream, which
Solid.
means you have to go get your kids, and I have to go get my kids right now. I just
time.
looked at my phone. Listen to me. God bless you, sir. Give me
Thank
a
you.
little
That was
of
fun.
this.
Enjoyed
It's
it.
a great time as always,
Yeah.
buddy. Quick shout out to our sponsor, C Squared Social. C Squared Social is the leading expert in social media marketing and creative marketing. They have fantastic platforms. I have been a client of theirs for some time. I cannot recommend them highly enough. C Squared Social for all of your social media and creative marketing needs.
Can you stay